So it has come to this, where a business person, a comic book store owner, is threatening to kill a comic book creator. Now, I don't care about what goes on the internet. I don't think Ethan Van Sciver is unable to sleep properly at night because some comic book store owner is sending him mean words on Twitter. But I do care about the principle. Like, if this was being sent to someone like Heather Antos or more of a prestigious person within the clique, you would see journalists advocating for Twitter censorship 24/7 and advocating how horrible this is and how we need to do something as a society, like everyone in a society, including the homeless people, need to join hands in order to stop this menace from occurring. But it's important to talk about how this has come to pass. Now, I know some of my subscribers are probably unaware of what comicsgate is, and they don't really know the whole scandal that created all of this. So you would have to go back a couple of years in the past, I think like 10 years or so, when comic books were doing quite great and almost everyone was into them. And you can tell that people were into comic books because there were memes that were being shared around with Superman and with Goku battling Superman and Wonder Woman. And I think that's when you can tell if something is popular or not. If there are memes of it on the internet. Take Game of Thrones, for example, right? Popular show, memes of it on the internet. Walking Dead, when it was popular, memes with it on the internet. The moment something doesn't have memes, it's not popular. And I haven't seen a meme with any Marvel character in a long while, except for the movies. Right? Like you get to see Thanos with the snap like that. There are a lot of memes with that. Iron Man, so on and so forth. But not from the comic books. Why is it? Well, a couple of years ago, a lot of people that are in the press, journalists, were making the argument that you need to change the way you write comics. You need to have diversity in comics because it's good for business. It's going to have a broader audience. Broader audience. Notice how they're not making that claim anymore. That diversity is good for business. I haven't heard that claim in a long while. And what they meant wasn't really have a wider audience. What they meant is replace your audience because your current audience is problematic. And diversity didn't mean have people of color in your comic books. What it meant is hire a diversity officer, a person that will make absolutely sure that there is no more diversity in your company, that everyone thinks the correct way, that everyone thinks the same. Which is why a lot of comic book pros now virtue signal constantly on Twitter, more than CNN anchors, is to show the diversity officer, the commissar, that they're one of the good guys. That no, I'm really with you guys on this. Like I remember, just so you can understand how ridiculous this was, because I do not collect the tweets, but I do see them. Because back then my channel was focusing on politics and other things, so I didn't collect the tweets. But I remember like this comic book pro when comicsgate goes down, he was in his holiday. So he was like in the mountains somewhere where he didn't check Twitter. And people were chastising him when he came back, like, why are you not disavowing comicsgate? Like that is the mindset that has now been made into the comic book industry, and it's the mindset at DC and it's the mindset at Marvel. Everyone needs to do the same thing. If one person lies, everyone has to lie. If one person disavows, everyone needs to disavow. If that's why they have the exact same politics and exact same takes on all the issues. It's insane. But anyway, right? So this is not what ended up ruining their business. What ended up ruining their business is, what do you do when you have a very talented person like Ethan Van Sciver, who has been working in the industry for decades and has been the person creating characters like Green Lantern, but he doesn't want to toe the line. I mean, for heaven's sakes, he claims he's a Republican. I mean, he's a Trump supporter. What do you do with him? You fire him. That's why I constantly say on my channel, when I see a company giving the far left dog whistles, and that can manifest themselves in a variety of ways, like, for example, deciding that they want to cover women up all of a sudden, or they talk about LGBT representation in a trailer or a tutorial for more than 5 seconds. I know that company now has problems, that it has these bigots infestating HR, infestating the company leadership, and they're going to fire all of the talented people. To the point where you end up with talentless hacks that literally cannot create a good and compelling product for the consumer to take. And not only that, but they also hate the consumer. They despise the consumer. They want to get rid of the consumer. If you look at certain people working at DC, they even want to bypass the consumer altogether to just sell their comic books, like price their comic books $9.99. I mean, seriously, would you buy a comic for $9.99? Because that's how much Superman versus the Klan costs. And just go to schools and libraries so that they can just get that sweet taxpayer money and just bypass the consumer altogether. That's why they can have so much sass and so much disdain towards the customer that wants to give them money. Because they think they're above the customer. And they also try to focus on getting awards from the New York Times and prizes and all of that in the hopes that someone would pick them up and make a movie based on their comic book, or make a big screen movie based on their comic books. And this is why you get to see the person who's responsible for writing She-Hulk give so much sass and have so inflammatory takes on Twitter, because she doesn't care about the consumer. Like, she just wants publicity. She wants to portray herself as a victim so someone can pick her up and turn her comic book into a TV show or in a movie. That's literally what they're doing. And I don't think it's going to work anymore with the downturn in the economy. And people were fed up with this. And you have some actual talented people that do not fit ideologically with the way Marvel and DC are doing things, and they decided to become independent. It started with It's Ya Boy Zach, and moved on to several other people. And when these people started their own comic books, their own independent venture, what ended up happening was that a lot of the comic book pros started assaulting them, like not only blacklisting them, but some of them legitimately talked about wanting to beat their ass. It's just because they understood that, yes, these are talented people and their competition can hurt them tremendously. So what happens is, like, It's Ya Boy Zach, a YouTuber, which was a critic, started his own comic book called Jawbreakers. And his comic book wasn't political. Like, it had absolutely nothing to do with politics, but it got stores, like comic book stores, refused to sell his comic in those stores because they knew that if they do that, DC and Marvel might pull out from their stores. It's literally like that. That is the way these people operate. So when this happened, people like Ethan Van Sciver, which, again, like I name people not based on how many prizes they get in the New York Times, or how much ass kissing the mainstream media gives to them, or how many subscribers they have on the Twitter. I name these people because Ethan Van Sciver sold so many comics on his first issue. He almost made $1 million. $1 million writing a freaking comic book. Can you imagine that? Like, if that is not success, I don't know what is. Just one guy in his own house, right, in his own mother's basement, draws a freaking frog and makes almost over $1 million. That's just, I can't wrap my mind around it. I legitimately cannot wrap my mind around it. So he sees what happens to Ya Boy Zach, and he's like, well, fuck it. I'm not going to use the comic book stores anymore because they are ideologically possessed as well. So I'll just bypass the comic book. Oh my God, they freaked out. Like, there were so many articles about how Ethan Van Sciver is hurting comic book stores. All of a sudden, DC and Marvel cares about comic book stores. Like, fuck off. Fuck off. You are the guys that are ruining comic book stores. If you look at what they're doing, and you actually get to speak with a couple of comic book store owners, it is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it is absolutely insane. So let's say that you want to purchase a comic book from a company, and that is a successful comic book. Like, that one actually sells. They will not allow you just to purchase that comic. Like, they tie you. It's like a package deal. It's like when you went to the cable company and you say you just want a subscription for this. It's like, no. It comes at a package deal. So you need to take all these other things you don't want and you can't even sell, and you have to pay extra for them. That is ridiculous. They have no buybacks, right? So before, if I were to purchase from the supplier 1,000 comics and I sell only 700 of them, the publisher would purchase 300 back because, like, would repay me for those 300, because they would understand that would rarely happen because they had this thing called quality assurance. Like they knew that their comic books are of high quality, and chances are you're not going to sell them back to them. But in this case, right, they actually don't do that anymore. Um, if you want to buy only a couple of numbers, like let's say you want to buy 50, you want to buy 500 issues, they don't allow you that. They have set numbers that you're forced to buy. All of that ruined the comic book stores. All of that ruined, like in an industry that's already dying because people are moving away from paper to digital. It's a lot more convenient to just do a couple of clickety clacks on your computer and read the comic from your home than to actually travel to the store, where you risk having them not even have the numbers you're revealing. Like if I want to get into a new comic book now, like I want to start reading, I don't know, the new Batman and Joker that they're putting out, where Batman, like Bruce Wayne, is from Hong Kong. I'm not making it up. And he's in a polyamorous relationship with Joker, who is a supporter of Antifa, and Catwoman, and they're having like this three triangle orgy. I'm not making it up. It's actually in the comic book. Just so you can understand like what you're missing out if you're not reading comics anymore, right? If I want to get into that, well, I have to go to my comic book store, allegedly, and see if they have all the previous issues that I haven't read so I can get up to speed. And it's just, like, they might not have them, so it's a lot easier to just go online where you know for sure that they have them. And that's what is killing the comic book industry. So I'll make this a two-part video. Tomorrow I'm going to actually show you the logs and the conversation that this guy actually used in order to attack Ethan. But this is what comicsgate is, right? So it's just like people wanting to do their own thing, and they're getting harassed. Like part of the drama isn't the fact that people want to do their own thing and move on. Part of the drama is that as people do their own thing, the established medium, like the actual DC and Marvel guys, are constantly attacking, harassing, and they're like the Dick Dastardly from the Wacky Races, trying to set up different traps and different roadblocks for the people that just want to go on their own way and be successful at their own business. It's really what comicsgate is about. Like if you're watching it from afar, is the drama seeing a person that works for a big business showing a picture of his own asshole to Ethan Van Sciver on Twitter for the entire world to see. That is why comicsgate is entertaining.